Wait, one second, make sure I'm recording. I should be recording now. Alrighty, right. You know what? I'm not sure on what I want to call this episode yet. I'm kind of just doing this off the bat. But, hello, welcome back to... I guess this would be a Fireplace Talks and Stories. Because I want to talk about Far Cry 5 today. And that is what we're going to be talking about. Now, Far Cry 5 happens... what year did Far Cry 5 happen again? You know what, it's just went clear out of my head. I had it there for a second. Far Cry 6 is the longest in the game. The series. That's not true. Let's see. Alright. So, Far Cry 5 happens in 2020, I'm pretty sure? Is it 2018 or 2019? 2020? Somewhere around that time? But, some people say it takes place in the early 2000s, but, we can never tell it. It's Far Cry, they're not gonna be simplistic with, when it happens. But, this is going to be my episode on why Far Cry 5 does not actually really exist. Because it has so many flaws that it just does not make sense to be an actual, true to the timeline of Far Cry. Like, obviously it splits off, if they did another Far Cry, like Far Cry 8 or 9, they'll probably have to do it in the 2030s, but So, Far Cry 5 New Dawn takes place in 2035, after Hope Country, County, not country, I keep muzzling up my words, I tell you, and the rest of the world has been left devastated by nuclear war. Now, in Montana, Montana does not have any nuclear power plants. In 2021, the Montana legislature repealed a 1978 law that required a public vote on nuclear power plants. In 2024, proposed building a nuclear power plant in Butte, Montana. The plant would use small nuclear reactors to generate power. Now, that happened after the game even existed, but in Far Cry, that means there is no nuclear power plant. But what about nuclear weapons? Because it never made sense to me. Yes, Montana has nuclear weapons in the form of Minutemen, free intercontinental ballistic missiles, the ICBMs, located at Maelstrom Air Base, the 341st Missile Wing. Launched Minutemen missiles are part of a continuous program of enhancement that has been going on for 60 years. The Minutemen III missiles. That is quite interesting. But I always thought, how many nuclear missiles they launched so fast on their own territory? Because I feel like there would be something in that, system for Far Cry 5, at the end, it's a little bit of a spoiler, at the end nuclear missiles go off in one of the endings, and that's what leads to New Dawn. Now, it never made sense to me why they would just target themselves. Because it's obvious that due to the short amount of time it took for those missiles, that it was their own missiles. So they must have taken over the base then, in that, universe. That's, story. They must have taken over the base. But then that's pretty hard to do, I feel like they would have called in another, military group, to deal with this, because this is terrorism now. You know what I mean? But now I'm going off track anyway. Now, my main thing on why and how Far Cry 5 does not actually truly could exist is Cheeseburger the Bear. You would not expect that, right? You would not expect that. But in Far Cry New Dawn, Cheeseburger the Bear is still alive, but he's mutated and he's a bad guy now that you have to kill. I think you have to kill. Is it mandatory? I'm not sure if it is mandatory. I think it's a side quest, but you have the choice to kill Cheeseburger. Boomer's dead, the dog. Sad that. But you have the choice to kill, Cheeseburger. Now the thing that never made sense to me is Cheeseburger. Cheeseburger could not exist in Far Cry New Dawn. Or even he exists in Far Cry 5, but that's due to medical help. He's a diabetic bear. Even with nuclear radiation mutations, it would not affect his diabetes. He would have died ages ago of his diabetes. He would have been in comas, for like ages, and would have died from hunger, from being in a sugar coma. So that's why... Let me fix this a little bit. That's why Cheeseburger is kind of like, the anchor of this, entire discussion. Is that, I had this all planned out before, but I went to sleep and I forgot most of the pinpoints I had planned for. So you're getting the very scuffed version, I do apologise. But the reason why Far Cry 5 New Dawn cannot exist is because Cheeseburger is alive. Cheeseburger could not have survived the nuclear war. Even with mutations, he's diabetic. He would have died from a sugar coma, from not being regulated with his sugar. It's a strange, anchor to this entire thing, but it be true. It be true. And so, we go back to Far Cry 5. The whole thing with the Far Cry 5 ending is that it splits off to, allow New Dawn to happen. But the other ending is that you're listening to the radio, and then you get knocked out due to it being a certain tune on the radio. That was, oh no, this tune of, the guys that come and hunt you down. Somehow they shot me through a helicopter with an arrow to, put me to sleep. I would have crashed the helicopter and died. Would have been counterproductive, that still cracks me up. But the whole idea is that Far Cry 5 could not have existed in the Far Cry universe. It's understandable, Hurk and all that. But the question is, how and why? Well, we know that it cannot happen, but why does it happen? Well, Joseph, has a lot of people. So the thing is, that never made sense to me, is the mist. The mist in Far Cry 5 never made sense to me, as it would have been a chemical weapon. And the question is, does Montana have chemical weapons? It sounds very strange. No, they had a chemical spill and... Oh, that was the 2024 one. Toxic mixture of chemicals spilled into the Yellowstone River when 17 Montana rail link train cars left the tracks while crossing the bridge over the river near Reed Point. 10 cars fell in, releasing 420 pounds of asphalt and 3 train car loads of molten sulfur. That's absolutely terrible. Pablo Chemical Depot, the US Army. And that is in Colorado that the chemical weapons exist. Well, stockpile. Activity, research, stuff like that. So, how does the woman, I can never remember her name, I can't remember most of the characters' names in Far Cry 5, I played it when it first released, never played it again afterwards after finishing the game. I just know I hated her because the gas, and I also hate the hunter guy, so I just went and did his quest just to get rid of him, so I would not be hunted. uh, but it always is quite a strange thing. So, 17 years after the Fallout is when Far Cry New Dawn takes place. That basically confirms what, I could just do, because I could just pull out a calculator. 17 minus 2035 equals 2008. It's kind of a bit too obvious, that one. And what year it actually takes place. So it takes place in 2008. There is no nuclear reactors. There's nuclear missiles in Far Cry 5, with Montana's base. The Minutemen missiles. So would it be, I feel like it would always be angled at another location. Even if they took over the base, it would be impossible. Because, that thing would be locked down, like a nuclear missile would be locked down. That's the best I could come up with there. So it really does not make sense. Now so, Far Cry 6 takes place in 2025. Wait. I do not want to accept all. I do apologise, I'm going to have to go and click a bunch of consent. I'm not legitimately interested in any of your stuff that you wanting to do. Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. I will go through every legitimate interest, I tell you. But they're trying to connect, this article here is they're trying to connect all of the Far Cry stuff together. Do I really care enough to go through this entire thing? No, I don't. But unbeknownst to many at the time of its release, Far Cry is set in the year 2025, taking place after the events of the collapse, which left... that does not make sense. With Far Cry releasing in 2018, Far Cry 5, 2008 was when they released Far Cry 2. You know what, I'm trying to find all the pieces that I had already, but someone did A.J. Galley, Duke, Montana. This is likely meant to explain the ending of Far Cry 5, where Montana is bombarded by nuclear missiles. Whether or not it was A.J., Sabal, or Mita who discovered and launched the missiles is unknown. How does that make sense? Those missiles would be fired from Asia. Asia! That would have been plenty of minutes to shoot them down, or even fire your own to them to destroy them. Plus it would actually be an enemy nation that would have fired it, because basically, where Far Cry 4 takes place is, we're going off the track here, Far Cry 4 takes place in Tibet, region, Tibet, Nepal kind of region. That's why it takes a lot of, the inspiration from that area and the war that took place there a long time ago. But it's really stupid that, they would even say that A.J. Galley would have fired the nuclear missiles. Why, what does he have against, America? He has nothing. He was born in America. Well, yeah, he was born in America because he left in the belly. Sabal and Amita, they probably would have. They probably would have. Nah, they probably would not. Someone went, is Pagamon your dad? Far Cry 4 Pagan Man is not your father 2014. It's like, you know, that one TV show, Are You the Father or Are You Not, you know. Okay, we're going far off track here, I do apologize. But the whole idea that I was talking about was, you know, Far Cry 5 is a game that, you know, has such a strange ending. Far Cry 6, you know, there's no way that it could have been, you know, after the nuclear war in America. Because all of that would have just came down in the airflow, you know, air moves. All of that nuclear stuff would have went all across America, all the way down into Cuba, and probably hitting North, South America quite hard. It shows you how deadly nuclear weapons can be, you know, the aftermath, the fallout is the worst part. Like, you're down in the nuclear blast, you know, you pray that you die in the nuclear blast, instead of, you know, being in the aftermath. Aftermath's terrible. But, the whole idea was just talking about Far Cry 5, you know. Far Cry 5 could not have happened in the Far Cry line. It would have, you know, divulged from the line. Though they want to stitch it together, there's really no possible reason. And, I'm gonna say again, cheeseburger's my anchor here. That's what I'm holding on to, you know, is the main idea. Cheeseburger would have never, you know, lived in. It would have not taken that many years, you know. It would have taken a lot longer the years for everything to recover than, you know, how fast it actually did, you know, in Far Cry New Dawn. Like, you know, 2008, that's like 17 years later. Yeah, 17 years later. No, wait. Almost 17 years later. Because if I look up 2035 minus 17, it would be 2018. So 27 years later is when Far Cry New Dawn would have happened. And that is well not enough time for nuclear, you know, stuff to get rid of. You know, you walk out in that, you know, soil, that soil's got to be having so many different isotopes in it, you know, that would just be so bad for you, you know, 30,000 rads per minute, you know, that's how bad it'd be. Alright, well, you know what, I don't want to take up most of your time, so have a nice day, because it's very important. Everybody say things, sometimes I say things, bye bye.